some and believe that we'll work on the rest. So it talks about the string modules, the operators, the array, the bisect, the OS, the temp file, the CSVs, zip file, configure parser, random, secret, UUID, statistics, date time, URL live pass, URL live request, HTML pass, and JSON. So I will just take a look at strings and take a look at OS, take a look at um, uh, date time, URL live pass, URL live request, HTML parser, JSON, PDF, and docs. So the first is to import the library, the string library. And after importing, experimented with some of the built-in things like string dot, which are parameters or methods within the class itself. So by the time you say string dot ASI letters, it will show the letters, like all the available letters have numbers and letters. Digit will narrow it down to digits. X digit will narrow it to just 0 to 9, and then the equivalent alphabet, and then punctuation. So running the code, you can see that small letter alphabet and capital letter alphabet, which are already built in into that, and the 0 to 9, which is what it swaps to form all other numbers, and 0 to 9 with the equivalent alphabet form the X digits, and then the available punctuations that are built within the standard library. So another thing is I try to test the whole idea of join and then that is it did with the string, which are already within the string module. And if I created this particular string with three quotation, because if you just put it like that, sometimes the are and not, maybe it may not understand it. It may say not gold, you know, and when I put sometimes when I put four or strings that contain four are not, sometimes you understand them more or less as functions, so that's why I use the three quotes. But if I create a variable called quotes and put string inside, and then I said C for C in quotes, if C in string is X digits. So it's just to bring out the X digit within the statement inside quotes, and then to join it together. So assign everything that it has done into a text variable, and run that, and just brought out within that list of strings, these were the X digits that actually occurred within it, the X digits. So if, for instance, if I go to that string and put gold 2000, and we run that, and then we run that, I'm sure it's going to identify 2002 as being part of the X digits. And then that's applicable to trying to create another test one, to create the string as ASI instead of the X digits, and to look for the AXI letters within it. And AXI covers majority of all the alphabets, small and capital. So if I run this time around, assign it as text one, okay, that's we assigning it or changing it to text two, since I've already used text one for that. So I can say the print text two as already written there, and it should be able to bring all those guys out. This time around, I asked for AXI letters, so it ignored the 2000. except if I ask for something that includes all numbers to along with it. And with regards to is
Wait, can I ask a question on that?
okay,
So with the okay, so the method you use to join.
yeah, the method I use to join, I put pass instructions that for each of the letters, right? It should bring them
Okay,
out and quote on the condition that they are
in
just
this ASCII letters. Okay,
or ASCII letters or X
string
digits.
X digits.
Mm.
Well, I was just wondering why there was no space in them before. But okay,
Because I
all
did
right.
not include, but
This
if I said, oh, we have spaces but XI letter does not include most of all the spaces. The only thing is if
yeah.
you go and put hyphen, all these other ones there, asterisk, and we run that, and we run that now. We um, quotes. So if quotes enters into inside strings, and I'm still using quote as test two. It didn't take those other ones along. I did not. They
It's
are not part
because
of
they are
the
not
XI letters.
letters.
So the thing is, if I change them to punctuations, to punctuations,
Yes, it
just going
should
to
bring
bring those guys out and forget about the guy.
all the letters.
Mm.
Exactly. Okay.
And there are still uh, some string functions that are built within that same model, which part of it is all number, all alphabets, and is numeric, which I think we have seen before in one of those earlier tutorials. So you just use that again and then say that run that just to give true and false that we have numbers within there, and then if we say put A and B here and we run that, it's going to be still is all number, and then
Alpha number.
it's a true, it's all alpha, it's a true, it's all numeric, and I expect false this time around because I've mixed numbers
You know
and
the first one you mixed alpha numbers and
it didn't
letters as well.
behave, it didn't act, it still see those guys too as what we call it. It still see them as numbers.
Why?
I wonder why.
I think doesn't that AL mean alpha? Because obviously it's alphanumeric.
Yeah, and
So
alphanumeric is referring to, it's not just numbers.
yeah,
Alphanumeric is alphabet and numbers.
and numbers.
So
Yeah.
yeah,
So
this
yeah, so that should
numeric
be true.
is referring to
Just numbers.
to numbers.
Mm.
So I think it's still right.
So
And
he's right, yeah.
alpha is referring to alphabets alone. So if, for instance, I put all these guys into this, it's going to turn false. And so I created a string um, assigning it into the variable showing car. And then in order to just be able to do the find, to do the start with, whether it starts with DHU or whether it starts with, and then here if you see it's whether it starts with THU, capital T, it starts with THU, small letter T, and whether it ends with Shoyinka. So you can see that to show that it's case sensitive, the second query will turn to false because what it starts with is actually capital T, and that's another aspect. I just put that one there to also show. So I asked it to test the find out of this one, showing cat.find, and then what I done here, and showing car print, showing car R silent. So that is to find DIES. But the find function, it's not like it's going to look for dies. It's just going to count the letters and locate the exact spot dice is. So it's going to count all the letters before you reach dice. And it's funny that it's not that it identifies, it only identifies, since it can't read. So it doesn't know dice, but it knows that you're looking for this thing and I'm going to use their placement within that. So it's going to return numbers of where they are. So after THU, which is 3, MAN, which is 3, space between, you meet dice. So the two space gives you 1, 1, 3, 3, giving 6, 8, you know, and then you're looking for silence, add all the things, THU, MAN, DIAS, all up to keep with the space, and it gives you have made. So it's just funny that's what it, but if we come to the research, then we can use other functions that are built within Spring, like so thing in. So I created a variable called news, and in the variable called news, I pass in a lot of things into it, news about from the newspaper, Cape Town, blah blah blah, in order to avoid the thing saying string, some elements within the string and reading them as functions. So I just use three quotes, and then once again, let me just come to the end of that string and get that variable done. So now I have a variable called news, which has been assigned a string. So I'm asking print Africa in news, which is more or less like to search for Africa, and then it's able to identify that what we call it, that there is Africa in that news. You know, the same thing I can search, which is more or less like searching whether that particular word exists. You know, like welcomed, and this is so important to us. You know, especially when we have a long strings and you want to text whether the person actually uh, mentioned something or whether the person's name is even mentioned at all in the whole thing. So if I say Trump here, in this thing, I think it's going to return false because they didn't mention Trump there. So and now I can say news dot count, you know, to count how many times did they make mention of Africa. So it's make mention of Africa 5 times. And if I want to be funny, I can still go and put Africa on my own and Africa on my own, and come to the end of that strings. We run that, and I've added 2, so you should be able to give me 7. That, so that's very good for text search and also for word search within the bulk of that. And another interesting part is to fix, to replace. So like any other places they mention Africa, replace them with Europe. So I call that, I declare whatever after having done the operation, which is news dot replace, assign it into to a variable called fake news, because the news have been twisted. It has been replaced, you know, the keywords have been changed. So this time around, what it's going to do, and then I print fake news. So it's going to print fake news. All the places that we have Africa now replace automatically when we like um, Nairobi, Kenya, we're meeting webinar to discuss Europe's COVID-19. Now it was Africa's COVID-19 vaccine. So that's it has more to, welcome the panel Europe. So at times, in a big bulk of work, like now that what we call it, that they have changed the word slave, the African American slaves that they used to consider as slaves, they have changed it to enslaved people, you know, and a lot of people have written a lot of books calling them slaves, right? Because it's not like they were born slaves, they were enslaved. So we've come to realization it was wrong for us. So in large volume of work, you want a new edition, and then you want to replace all the slaved instances with enslaved. You can just look for those instances or just replace them with enslaved, and that's
Can- so this will so that um news dot replace
yeah,
looks for every
Africa,
incidence of Africa
exactly,
and replaces it with
with
Europe.
Europe, yeah.
Okay. So can you do that? Um, I'm just trying to, because I'm seeing some text there and I'm also thinking about something else.
Yeah.
For example, in a situation where you have see that Europe's with a possessive apostrophe, right?
Yeah,
What would it do if that was originally Africa? So,
it was Africa before.
yeah,
Africa's,
okay,
it was Africa's. If you go and look at the strings from the beginning, you will see that we're talking about blah 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 to discuss
okay,
Africa's
Africa's, okay,
COVID-19.
I've
So
seen it then. Okay,
it was able to just uh,
and still
get
retain
the
that.
idea
Okay, I
in
just wanted to see
mind.
what how it will function when there's a punctuation. The other
Exactly.
thing that I wanted to ask is, so what would you do if you had several things to replace? So if you wanted to replace Africa with Euro,
Yeah.
African with European,
Okay.
and say maybe COVID-19 with Ebola.
Yeah.
So those three things.
This time around, it's
Mm,
good to use NLP. That's Natural
okay.
Language Toolkit Library, because that one has a robust framework for doing massive, massive kind of. But this is like, it's just like you have Notepad, which is built
Mm,
into Windows, and then you install Microsoft Word. So like this is a small string, is a small library within Python. But a lot of people have now developed NLP is one of those bigger libraries, and I still feel that we explore this better when we'll I don't want to bring NLP into this
today.
because it
Yeah.
will be as if we have started looking at
In
external.
fact, actually, the reason why I mentioned it was
Yeah.
because I was thinking of perhaps a potential solution in my head.
Oh, you were
What
thinking
if
maybe if we turn it to
to like a
um,
list
a list,
replaced by a list? Yeah.
if we turn
So
it to a list
so
and
if instead of where Africa is, if you put Africa itself inside a square bracket
yeah,
and then comma European, comma African, and then the same thing with the one with Europe, put comma European.
if we want to if we want to turn it to a string, a library, right, or a list, or we turn it to a library. Let's say we turn it to a library,
Okay.
and then we're going to have a station where we're going to say
So yeah, we can have it like
Africa, then Europe,
a dictionary.
then uh, comma, um, where we
African
have world replaced with
planet.
universe. You know, it's going to have
Okay.
issues because those things are not really, they're not instruction already passed within the
The
string.
replace.
Yeah, to understand or to be able to read list and all those things. So it's just like
Okay.
it was just given, and that's why I say it's at the beginning that it's a small library. It's not like it
Hmm,
has a lot of,
a huge
but those who developed, I don't actually, they didn't develop the string library for textual analysis and
hmm.
advanced textual questioning. Because when it comes to text analysis and texture, NLP is natural language processing. Like
Okay,
it's
so
just
it's made for
developed
that.
for that, and then it has all those whatever because they key those things into that. I
Sorry, I just
want to.
wanted to see if that was
Mm, I understand what right from the onset when you raise it up, and I was not interested in because I know these things is all these things is a straight jacket is what they have built on grounds that they teach and they talk about. If they have built that, they will mention it too. If they have built that, and most times you can't extend, and that actually informed a lot of people building libraries and libraries and libraries and libraries. It's just like when you use the built-in random or using the built-in array and all those stuffs, it can't do what matplot is going to do when you use matplot as an external, you import matplot as an external library. So I just feel maybe the time when we'll be exploring matplots, you explore matplots, I explore NLP, and then we'll be able to go deeper into some of all those. So we are familiar with upper is up dot upper and dot lower, which turns everything to that. to the lower, and then I was trying to see whether if somebody want to send a bulk email, right, and to see whether one can perform operation within, alter some of them, and do that. So I was like, maybe the mail can be splitted and can be done this. And so what I did was to create a string called ARN mails, and to pass it into the split it and pass it into webmail and print webmail, trying to see whether it's going to, and it separated them with a dash. You just separated each of them with a dash. I was actually expecting it to separate them with, because sometimes you want to send bulk mail, semicolon can be is always good, that sorts mail out, you know, So that was what I was expecting, but it just separated. So it didn't work as expected anyway. It's not given the so, and then the whole idea of print comma in between the each of the webmail. This time around, it removed the dash from the stub and returned that. That's not actually what I wanted. So, and then I was trying to also do centralizing for a bulk stuff, instead of individual stuff, whether it can do decentralizing using some of the thing we used with counting, and this is for alignment, um, center alignment. But you found that what it did was just to put, if you trace this particular hyphen, which is in between, you will realize that for it has done central alignment to them. But if you change that to let's say left justify, let's left just, you know, you see that it returned that dash to the left and then to the right. But it was actually done for, if you see from the side, it wasn't done for this, but I was trying to look for adaptation, and maybe you can come up with something from there. So using the f string function, which we are a little bit familiar with, um, when we call within, which is built within the string, and then the template, it makes it a template where we can always change what is there. So using the template module or parameter within the string, so I created a quotation which I call a variable called twist showing car, and then I say the species, whatever you put there, and gives you the action, always represented in dollars. In all who keep silence in the face of the. So what he said before is that the man dies in all who keep silence in the face of tyranny. So whatever the event may be, and whatever the. So I now say, okay, that the template is equal to template into bracket twist showing car. So put twist showing car as the template and assign it as now the template. And then for the output twist, so which is going to give the template or substitute. And that is using whatever you have passed into the template to be considered it. The string module understands the term template dot substitute. And then you put the what you have declared within the main template. So I say species this time around is woman, action is lips, and event is hunger, and then creates the arguments, the species, action, event, and then asks for the print. So it comes out with the woman sleeps in all who keep silence in the face of hunger. And that still makes sense, because if people are hungry and a woman is, that means the woman inside a person. When it says the man dies, all who keep silence in the face of tyranny. So you can always change it to maybe to the goat, you know, to the goats bleats, or the goats shout, you know, you know, eventually hunger. So you assign that shout, and I think we're already used to this anyway. because we witnessed a lot in that beginning when they started using this one bleat, this one shout, this one cry, you know, and then the goat shouts and all who keep silence in the face of hunger. What is showing cat? The guy will be said very angry. You see that. We start speaking grammar. This is a distortion of the element of my intellectual sagacity, you know. And then I enter I enter
Hey.
into to the import date and time. So I just try to use that for F string. That other one is template. This F string kind of a thing, which we did initially when we're talking about we're using plus, we use plus, we use all sort of things when we're talking about the person, the student of Birmingham, is also department, you know, at the early stage of our Python journey, right?
Yes,
Plus,
yes.
but you know, we just use now we use F string, which when we're seeing F, we're just wondering what's that F all about. So it's all about declaring your variables and then calling them within the whatever within the body, and then you can use them as anything. You can always change them there. Like I said, Trump name is Trump, age is 74, weight is date, and exit is date, and the time. So I say F the name is now so
Trump
age
has to
old,
leave
currently
office.
with this, he has to leave office on so date. You know, and then this time around, you can even, you know, you if we run this, let's come to the end and run this. So Trump is now 74 years old and currently with this, he has to leave office on the 20, that's the 20th of January. Let's leave that place. And then you can always do all sort of manipulation here without even going back to what has been declared. So probably variables, you are not even in charge of variables. So you can always multiply them, you know, multiply, let's say we multiply the age, you know, and come to the end. And this is one of the things that people talks about that when a programmer develops an app and you are the one to supply the content, but sometimes in the code, it might have indicated that certain things goes to the profit for them. So they can include why you put in 74, you know, they end up duplicating what we get to the other person already inside the code. That whatever comes in there, you multiply it by
Okay.
this. So it's just, and then you can always play with the old thing. So I think F string makes sense because when you begin to play with the old stuff inside it and begin to, you know, deduct the guy's age, multiply, duplicate, do arithmetics, multiply weights, you know, by age, you know, by age, you know, multiply weights by age and divide it by social things. And so you can always pick up whatever the person will supply as a variable, you know, as an input, you can always, so I see F string very important and interesting. You can go to the whole idea of opening, writing files, which we're all familiar with, and then this just to broaden our understanding of that. So if, for instance, now we say the tested file, this time around we're going to write, we should create it and open it and then write into it. So the first thing is to assign it. We say, okay, whatever, once it creates the file and open it, you should just put it inside FP and fp.write, write this into that text file and then close. And then this time around, I say tested, and then I can run that. And then if I go to the document now, I think this is where I have so I've tried to reduce so that I won't be looking for things, reduce things here. I won't be looking for things like where is it to, where is it gone to, you know.
She's in alphabetical order. I've seen it.
You
Go
have seen
down.
it, right?
It's in alphabetical
Okay, it's
order.
tested.
Yeah.
Yeah. So tested file of text. And then if we open the tested file of text and it has put, I'm on my way to becoming an expert in textual analysis.
So
Okay.
that backslash n
It's a new
means
line.
what?
It's a
New
new
line.
line.
So if you
See,
write something there, okay.
yeah. So if I still go on and still let's say for instance I put this again into that, you know. and then
So if
run
you
that,
wanted to put
and then run that, and
the
let
refresh
me
this
run
page.
this tested to file, and then run that. And then if I go to the document, tested to file, and you can see it has sent the second one to, so next line. So that slash n means the next line. You were
So if you
asking the
wanted
question.
to give a line spacing, you just do that dash n
Yeah, the
twice,
next line, go to the next line. So it's just the same thing as somebody hitting enter on the
enter,
keyboard.
enter.
Mm.
Because if you are using this medium to actually do writing, but I think this is how latex or
Yeah.
latex, this is the kind of environment it has.
Yeah.
Mm.
So the and so like the text this time around is to 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 do what we can say, a reading of maybe a file that is already existing, right? And you remember that time we're trying to do that a little bit, it was not working because I found out that we mix encoding, because sometimes there are different coding of all this. And even when we are saving notepad, sometimes we always see that there is UTF, and all form of, so most times it want to understand the coding. So what I have here is uh, imagining I'm having a kind of let's say text file, which I put an entire novel into the text file. Let me see that again. I just put an entire novel, The Famished Road by Ben Okri, you know, so which is very long. And and then I asked it to say with open, use this encoding and as my file, and then read. So text file.read. The other time we use text file.write into it, but we just want to read, and then you should print the text. So this time around, we wanted to bring the text so it brought it into our spreadsheet or into the whatever, and then we can bring it out. And so it's just encode it.
It's precisely the way it would be in a normal text file when you open it.
Exactly. The only thing is for me, I just see it a little bit beautiful instead of rolling down the whole thing of the Jupyter script. It just enter his own kind of a box there, and
Yeah.
then have his own. Then for the PDF, we're talking about the issue with PDF that time and all these things. So I found that I can just install small libraries like
Pip install.
people install PDF and get PDF and read PDF too, just the way that it has done. So I use, and unlike when we are on our terminal, we just use pip install, but in Jupyter we always put exclamation pip install. So we use a small module like py PDF2, and having pip install it, and then we can import the module PyPDF, and from that module, we import what we call a PDF file reader. So it is that PDF file reader that will do the all other readings that export, and then we can be able to pick up, any PDF document, and no matter how they have styled it, and like this one, for instance, the PowerPoint that was turned to PDF. So what I did is turn the PowerPoint to PDF, and then ask it to read the PowerPoint. Now it's not a normal PDF, it's having a shape, but it's still going to scrap it out. And this is very important, especially when you scan a document, and then though we have scanners that can do scan and read. So this time around is read as binary, and then I'm asking it to read that ignite. I've already put it in that directory. I hope it's still in the, so I said open, and then I use the read PDF file reader to read it, and then I have to still, how many pages do I have inside it, which is to say PDF reader dot number of pages. It says 76, and then I said, can it get page 10 so that we won't litter this place with all sort of things? So, and can it just assign page 10 into that and extract the text in the page 10? So in the page 10 of that PDF document, what we have is what is design thinking. Design thinking revolve around it. So you just extract that particular page 10 out of it and
That's very
then close the PDF. So the same thing for documents. People install documents, import document from documents, import document, and then I put the CV, my CV updates, read the stuff from it. But unfortunately, it did not work. It did not work. I don't know whether it comes up with an error that is having problem, having it has installed that whatever, but it was having problem with the Word documents, with the line import to it. So I think probably the library has been changed. These are small libraries, and maybe the person who developed it is not compatible with this version of Python that I'm using, you know. So, and then forget about read that or this. So I struggle with that, try to do what will it, but I just ignored it. So it's better I go and use a bigger library that can read documents than struggling with that one. And it's interesting to know that you yourself, anyone can create a library. You can join all the codes you have been using and modules you create on your own to do certain functionality, join them together and turn it to a library and give it a name and send it to their general repository and people can begin to use it. And then so the next one is to go to a built-in module tool inside our Python standard library, which is what we call it, UR lib request, you know, and the same thing with JSON, which it has deep inside it. So I just import request, import JSON, and then I requested from this website, which has a built-in JSON, wherever. So if we go to the website, for instance, and then just type there. So you see that it's a JSON, whatever website. So it's just on JSON script and showing certain things, raw data. Yeah, so just work directly with it. And the only thing is that it shows us how we can use request.get to just get anything from the internet, and which I use to actually request.get, which also use request lib dot URL open. They also serve that, and then most times you can pass it into any variable you have created. You can see that, like the one here, I just use R, which is the built-in, but I call when it comes to, because I know that there's a standard library when it comes to web scrapping, data mining from websites and all these other things. They call it Beautiful Soup. That's the name of the library, and it's a big library. It contains a lot of things. So it's one of the libraries like NLP that I would love to also explore for text analysis. So the first thing is to use the standard library and to use that, and then pass the request.get from that, and then pass into r.json, put it into JSON and put it into the variable rest. And then this time around, use the parameter json.dumps, and then pass rest into it and ask for the indentation section that I want there, so that I won't end up leaving this old place. And then brought out the particular indentation for into the web page. So I experimented doing a more serious things of requesting from the net and with Beautiful Soup.
Wait, no, please. Scroll up a bit.
Okay.
So that indent equals 4.
Indent takes indent 4 of the whatever of the particular JSON document. The JSON document contains many indents, right?
So so this is the website that you're going to know.
Yeah, I just use an existing instead of using a JSON. I just used, since the JSON, and I want to experiment with JSON, how it can work with JSON.dumps parameter. So that's why I use an existing JSON document which exists, just take from there, get from that internet, and then apply JSON.dumps just to be able to get a particular indentation from there.
Okay.
There are still many other applications that could be used for. But for me, I'm not going to be going to JSON to go and get what we call it, to go and be getting whatever. If I have, if I mine the data, is that I put the data into a CSV or into JSON. But the last one I did, I put NSARS into JSON. I got 8 gig JSON of mining from Twitter, and then is asking my system for me to open it on this system. I should spare 4 gig, 4 gig memory space, and because it was big, for it to open 8 gig JSON documents. And so I noticed that, and it's interesting to know anyway that Python itself, it works very well on system with good memory and good whatever, because it's like it's an interpreted language, so it's going straight to the, and that's why most times when people want to do installation or anything, you go straight to the terminal and people install whatever you want to do, because it's relating straight with the machine language, with the board, So trying Beautiful Soup, I love the name Beautiful Soup, and then the person who developed the library gave it a good name, so that at least when you are coding, you'll be thinking about soup, And for those of us who understand what soup means, not to Igbo people, they don't know what soup means.
That one.
We know what soup, when I see Beautiful Soup, egusi soup comes to my mind, the way to
Exactly. Exactly.
Begiri,
Abula.
you begin to think about soup,
As a Python in a way.
As you are Python in a way, and it encourages you to say soup, you may eventually enter soup, So Beautiful Soup, the short is pip install, exclamation, pip install BS4, and it's a waste of time on, what do we call it?
Jupyter.
It's a waste of time on Jupyter to be pip installing all the time. But it's because you're using a temporary thing. But
even if you came back, you have to do the same thing again.
Yeah, because like I install. Okay, requirement already satisfied. Oh, so it's not installing it again. It just checked that I have it. So the only thing is, so it did not install it again.
So this thing does it does connect to your local drive.
You mean Jupyter?
Yeah.
I'm using the Jupyter system is running from the system. So it's not like the Jupyter, the one that runs from the internet.
Online.
The one that runs from the system, is different from your Python installation you have done, because it's a distribution inside Anaconda. So what we did was to install Anaconda on your system. Then now inside Anaconda, you will find Jupyter as well as all other distributions. So like now it's going through Anaconda. If you want to install, it will just be inside Anaconda. So it's not like if I pip install Beautiful Soup into this Jupyter, it's not like it has installed it onto the system. It only installed it into the Anaconda, So like there's no so much correlation, because Anaconda now serves as its own kind of a development environment that
intervening with the whole thing.
Exactly. And it's because Jupyter is not a terminal. So that means it has to rely on something that runs it as its own server. It runs it as its own server. So that's so now that though for me I enjoy using it for this kind of thing, because you see clarity experimenting. Because when you're experimenting, using this what we call it. I love the Visual Studio Code is good, but the issue with Visual Studio Code is unless you use the debug console, the whole thing that it has to come with all the lines of the parts all the time, and then it's a little bit later the entire thing, especially when you have a long part. When you have a long part and it's always coming with that. And so back to the code, having people install Beautiful Soup, So get some modules from Beautiful Soup, and which is one of them, the URL lib. URL lib request as the URL lib 2, and then from Beautiful Soup I import. But the URL lib request is from the system, and then it's from Beautiful Soup I import Beautiful Soup, right? BS4 I import Beautiful Soup, and then I now try to what we call it stream from my system, and then get a particular web page, which is my conference page of my website, and then I use URL lib2 as .url open, and then pass whatever is inside into response, and declaring response.read as an HTML document. And then, when you are using Beautiful Soup, what they expect you to do is that whatever you have done, you should pass it into a soup. So, everything that we are reading from that particular web page, you use it to create a soup. And, Beautiful Soup is a little bit made up of, it has basic thing you can create from it. Is either you create a soup object. So like now, what I'm creating now is a soup object, which is an instance of a soup. All other things you can pass, you can create it, you can pass from another website and pass it into whatever you pass it to just create a soup. But when you start working with it for various parameters, you just continue to work with like soup.prettify, soup.this, soup.that. If it to be we are on the, let's say, Visual Studio Code, you just put dot, it will come up with all variables,
all the
various things we can always, all parameters.
extensions.
Exactly, that we can do with it. So, but this time around, I'm just like soup.prettify, which is to print out the entire thing as the string in the entire that page as an HTML document. And then that being done, and we should be able to get the feedback if it goes to the web, and pass that, create a soup from it, send it into the variable string HTML, and print string HTML. And then we have that. It's a little bit interesting that it doesn't understand the website as or that web page as just the content that is there. It understands the web page as everything, the HTML code, the scripts, everything that make that page to exist is just bring it out entirely, just bring it out completely. And then and that's why sometimes people always talk about the security of websites, that when you use non-programming languages to create websites, like if you could use website, like you use scripts like HTML to create website, it can easily just be brought out because it doesn't have instructions that secure it, So if you create an HTML site or WordPress site or anything, it always end up with .html or .whatever. But if you create a website, let's say with C++ or C#, which is a Microsoft site, it will end up with .axpx. And it means that it's a little bit, it's not something you can't just ask them to upload or to rip out and pass to you on the AXPS side, because you have to program it already within certain instructions, because what happens is that people can read the back end of the site and get everything to even log into the site and work on it. Because if you can read the entire script, that it was even made with WordPress, this is the entire JavaScript or whatever, and then you can read it, the entire life, you just bring the intestine, the liver, the whole thing, even so I was disturbed. I was a little bit, I just noticed this, it was at this point that I come to realize that, one cannot be doing a very serious project that somebody who is good will just bring it down by looking at the back end and use it to instruct from the other thing, and you just realize the website is not or upload the entire server out, upload the entire script, you just realize all the files, so because it's not secure. If somebody can see the back end of everything just from a simple
just this code
password,
yeah,
It doesn't make sense. And that makes a lot of people to also realize that WordPress site is not a website. It's
Is
not.
that the same thing with
Eh?
when if somebody creates a website online using
Yeah,
all this
yeah,
website creators, is
yeah.
that the same? Does the same thing apply?
Yeah, it's the same applies, Even if you
Wow.
create with Dreamweaver, even if you create with Dreamweaver, the only thing is people, that's why people don't, they stop creating website just with scripts. And what I mean by script is HTML is a script. It's a scripting language. It's not a programming language. But if you create a website with PHP, for instance, it can happen to that because it's going to be end up with PHP, and PHP is a programming language,
Mm.
right? So most times people want a PHP site. People want a JavaScript site. People that are serious supermarkets, people are now talking about Python sites. So everybody's talking about Python sites, Python websites. They want a Python site, and that's why the most interesting thing that I also love about Python is the fact that it's also used for web development. So when you learn the programming as a programming language, you can use it to like what I was doing with creative techies now. I'm trying to because the platform for creating website with programming Python is Django. So I'm still working on reworking this creative techies website to make it a Python site. To make it a full Python site that will run Python's code and do all these things. So, and then I'm using Django. So having done, I actually, when I notice it's giving me problem from the server side because I'm having issue configuring the server. So I'm doing first of all from the window base. So this is the window based on the installation successful running from the local host. So, and if you look at it, Django is not a programming language. It's not, but it's a framework that was developed in order to allow Python developers, if they want to develop website, they don't need to go and learn other languages. You get it? They can just turn Python to a web development language to and create a secured whatever. And then you can come to a Django site and say view page source, and then it will show you the entire thing. It's just showing but by the time it's showing this particular page, but by the time, let's say, when even though that I scattered this other one, I've reached a point that I've created the first home page, but I scattered it because I was trying to relearn the process. I arrive at it, but I will still get there. So that's number one from this experimentation. Number two is also to see if this web page that is showing what we call it, that is showing just the conferences, right? Um, is if somebody want to open it in Nigeria or in other parts of the world where the website is not strong. Another thing I discovered is WordPress carry a lot of things with it. All the plugins, all the Elementor, and all those one constitute scripts too. Because this page, supposed not to pass just a single page of. So if I want to develop that page just with Dreamweaver straight away, it's just you just type the header, inherit the head, and then from the paragraph and write what you need to write, and then it declare the page because you made it with Elementor, you made it with this one plugin, it carries everything along with it all the time. I hope it did not carry my password and user's name and everything with it because I'm already seeing here, up there, and
But that look very well.
but the thing is, it shows the superiority of programmers.
Hmm.
People refuse to learn programming. People still feel that they can bamboozle their way and whatever. It just shows the superiority that non-programmers are just still doing child's play with
Hmm.
and a lot of people prefer to just people don't want to crack their heads,
Outsource it.
Eh?
They'll just outsource it.
Outsource now. People want to crack their head, and when you go people will give them the outsource, they know they use those things. So now I do other manipulation with the soup I've created. So part of it is soup.title. which is to get the type, and it talks about the DS element tags. What's the title of the thing, of the web page? You know, when we develop website, we always put them into head, title, paragraph, and the div, and then footnotes, you know, those divisions within a website. So you can always extract, because to understand those divisions within it, like now we say soup.ed.name and soup.ed.content. So it brought out just the aspect of the ed of the, instead of bringing the entire thing. And then soup.attributes, which is like the, so you can see like those things we say title when we're doing what we call it, the structuring under customize of the appearance, you know, those are things we just put there, and basically, but it's just, somebody cannot even work very well with WordPress in manipulation if the person does not know the basic structuring of the site, that home, div, menu, blah, 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 footer, and all those stuff. So these are some of the things that Beautiful Soup is doing with it. I was trying to experiment with this, but it did not work anyway. Look for that element. So I go to another built-in one within the library. Have I exhausted my time? Because you have taken a bishop position, a position of you don't do now, how many don't finish.
No. I'm stretching.
I'm only joking with you. I'm just pulling your leg, you know. So this time around is because we just use import sys and then print sys version, which is just built-in library, just to know the version of Python, and also my system AMD 64 and all this thing, which I just is just small like
MSc, your computer again masters.
64 bits, you know. Sometimes go and bring, and it brought the 4th August 9, whatever the day I installed
the operating system
version of the Python, I think.
Oh, okay.
It's the version of the Python, because it's like it's relating with the system from whatever. So, and then I create another soup from a course, you know, which is just the same thing, like just use Rectify and just to test creating another soup. And this a site, is a PHP site. And then, you know, it brought out as usual, but it's not as much, because I just let me experiment with a PHP site by a DERA course, but it still brought out the intestine and liver, but not as much as WordPress. But it still is a programming language. It goes to the roots and bring out whatever. So it doesn't show speed, but this time around, I can now begin to say, bring out the paragraphs, you know, because I looked at it. If, for instance, you are scrapping a website, is it all these things that I'm scrapping? So I just look for the elements of the paragraph, find all the paragraphs, and bring out the content. So it identified P as paragraph for the thing, and brought out this time around, brought out the real content, which is something you may be interested in when you are mining a particular website. You want to get all the whatever, and then get that out. And then try x.text for the content of my own first soup. You know, this one is soup2, right? Soup2.find. So I use the first soup. So instead of all those rubbish, it just brought out the real thing inside that website. So this was what was on the website before. And I was seriously interested, because what's the essence of using lib response and pass and all those things without actually doing a real mining, not mining the codes behind the web page, but mining the content of the web page. So that ends the journey with Python.
So I'm just going to go with the data manipulation part. Data manipulation part. And so sorting from the beginning. So now this particular one is a good thing to have because the function sorted helps to sort a set of numbers or a set of characters actually. That's the general thing, but we are starting with numbers. So it helps to set a set of characters um, in a predefined order. So the normal sorted function itself does an ascending order this thing, sorting. So it looks at the test scores, which is the variable name given to this list, and it takes each thing in there as a number, as an integer. I'm sure it can also take non-integers. It can take floating numbers because it's not preset as an integer array or
Okay.
this thing. So it should be able to take. In fact, let me just do that, and let me
That'll be
add
great.
82.5. Right. So if I now tell it to sort test scores, so the scores are sorted, and this is the function name that is to be called, and this is the name of the variable, and I'm going to tell it to print. So I'm just, first of all, I'm going to comment out this code, and I'm going to run this one. So you see it has done it from
Hierarchical order.
yes, in the numerical order, 58, 67, and everything. Now you can tell it what to do. So the default setting is to do from lowest to highest. Now this second code here reverses that. And the way you reverse that is that you call a variable called reverse and you set the value to true. So by default is false. So it doesn't reverse the order. It starts from the normal ascending order. But you reverse it and you set that reverse variable to true. And so it now does this in the real order. So I'm just going to put something here to say reverse list is that. So I'm going to print yes. So now you see it's just done it.
Yeah.
So it's flipped it.
It understand the reverse list as a string.
No, this one I
Mm.
just put it yes as a string. So the print function can print more than one thing at once. So
Yeah.
that's why. So just so that we can contrast between this
Yeah.
output and that output. So I
Okay.
decided to just put that there. So this is the reverse list. This is the original default list in ascending order. So that's that about that one. It's very interesting. One of the main application things is obviously sorting. If you have lots and lots of numbers that you want to sort, um, um, test scores, or I don't know, if you are looking at population or comparing numbers, comparing things, you want to know in
And
which order they are in a particular population. You wanted to say something?
sometimes you see that instead of going to find out to put those things into Excel and go and be clicking sort.
Yeah, exactly.
Just because one thing I just found that these things are that's made Python more is like a normal calculator, a tool in the hand of a
Yes,
developer to
of a
solve
developer.
what people will be going up and down to.
Yeah, and be so all these things they are the back end of Excel.
Yeah,
Just
even all those things of search, find, and what at the back
yes,
end, and then
exactly.
it just comes the
V
next one.
lookup, H lookup, all those things is
Exactly.
just this code that is behind everything.
And then
And
you
it's
go
very
extra
interesting.
mile. You go
Eh?
extra mile to go and put those things. And just,
Yes, exactly. I'm really, really looking forward to being a good Python whatever person, because all the I know I can just see all the Excel struggle and everything will just disappear. Because I would even prefer to be doing my work here than be doing it
on Excel. Yes.
on Excel.
Yeah.
Uh-huh. So because it will be very good, and I'm interested because now I'm seeing some things. with your own area that you were talking about, though you were not really looking at extracting things from a file, which is what
Yeah,
I would look at. You are looking at creating a file and populating that file with
yeah.
text and
But
everything.
we have an exercise on CSV, and
Yes,
CSV
which
always
is
take and where you can do more of some of all this sorting.
yes, number 3. Yes, chapter 3 on our this thing does that. So yeah, but yeah, so I'm interested in that section. Once I get to that section, although obviously I've seen importing CSV files before and everything, but I even wanted to do Excel because I have the data that I'm creating.
Yeah.
Actually, I'm creating it from MATLAB,
Okay.
synthetic data. So
Okay.
I'm not yet quite sure how to create it and export it as a CSV. If I can't do that, I'm not sure I'm going to import that file into into Python and then be doing my
Okay. Okay.
machine learning work. So I need to find a
But but
connection there.
but on what file does it save from the
It
other
comes
side?
out as a .matlab file.
Oh, they have limited somebody to the MATLAB.
So that's the
I hate
problem.
when application tie you down to their
That's
tool.
the problem. Although
They didn't
the
allow exportation.
that's the other thing.
Have you checked exportation?
I will, because the thing is from a simulator that is
Okay.
working in MATLAB. So
Okay.
you give it the parameters and everything, the shape from which you want to simulate your data. And once it simulates data, you tell it to export. The exporting framework is quite limited. There's no CSV, Excel, or anything. It just comes out as a MATLAB something. So one probably for now, obviously because I don't yet know better,
You can
one would
search online because many
yeah,
people it's possible because many things are possible. I feel that MATLAB will not allow any kind of a cross analysis thing that somebody can use when it's not an anyway. It's we all check that.
yes, I would definitely look into that. So I'm interested in that because this part that I'm doing now is almost like the nitty gritty of what I'll be using to analyze the data, finding all these maybe highest points, ascending an order, and everything. So, well, if one imports that CSV file and extracts necessary information from a particular column that is irrelevant, then you can start doing all these manipulations with that particular column because you know what you're working with and you just translate it into something like this. You know what each of those data points are, you arrange them in order and everything. So that would be very, very interesting. Okay, so that's the first part. Everything here is more about sorting and manipulating your data. So this is the second chapter, second part in the chapter, in that particular chapter. And this one is about using a key for sorting. So in the first example that we use, this is just quite quite what's it called? It's the default kind of sorting. You can't use this sorting, for example, if I created letters equals, let me say, a C F Z. Um, okay, let me just put H there. And then I put print sorted letters. Okay, it, it actually worked. I didn't expect it to work. But okay,
I was
so
even thinking if you put the letter, if you turned it to maybe an array or to to a dictionary and say A, or what I'm looking at, when we write a listing, a listing of things. A maybe is table, B is chair, C is this, and then you rearrange it not in an orderly way, you know. Maybe it's going to sort that out for us, from that sense.
Okay, to do that, actually, I think I need this curly brackets. So if I do make this a table, and then say B, no, let me do Z. No. And then let's make Z a chair. And then let's make H cutlery. Okay. Now let me. No, in a way it worked.
It worked.
It worked. If
carry the members along.
Eh?
It didn't carry the family members along.
It didn't carry. I think maybe one has to. I don't know what's out of reformat that.
Let's not put in
divert.
Let's continue with the other part of the lecture.
Yes, for now. But yeah, that's an interesting sidetraction. But anyway, so now this is another way of doing things, which, as we will see, is more efficient. And then this is the more efficient part, and then we move on to another kind of sorting. So this one now is if you have, see the example of the class that was created here, for example, and then the class is a class of products. And this is how the product itself is defined. That particular class is defined.
A built-in class, or it was?
No, it's created for this particular chapter. So, and this is the thing itself. So yeah, it's created for this purpose. And it's the product has a name, a price, and a weight. The discount is used to calculate the discount for that particular product whenever the discount is enforced. So the discount is a percentage. And so whenever you call the object or the product and you ask for its name using the dot extension, it prints out name, which is here, and so too for price, weight, and discount in the same way, right? So now this now defines what comes up when you call that product. So this, when you actually call that product, only name, price, and weight come up. The discount doesn't come up. That's what this part is doing. And now to calculate the discount price, whenever you want the discount price, this is what the function is created. Discount price self returns self.price, which is that here, minus that same price times the discount. So that generates the discount for you. And now it now creates a list of products using this convention here. And so the name widget, the price, 50 units of whatever the currency, the weight is 10, and the discount is 0.05. So 5% discount for a widget. And the same thing for a doohickey, and for a thingamabob, and for a gadget. So those are the products that they have. So now to sort these things, for example, with one of this, so we now have 4 products. We wanted to sort each of those products by a particular attribute that they have, or a particular one of these things, weight or price. There's no use sorting by name. you can sort by name, you probably just do it alphabetically anyway. So, but let's just do that. Define, so a function here is created and it's define prod sort, which is to sort the products. So it takes in the product, which is this, whatever here, and it returns the price of that particular product. So we now want to print using this function as a key. So what has happened here is that apart from, so there are built-in keys, which we will see later, lambda and all that. But this one is creating a key of itself, telling it, so that key will tell the sorting parameter, basically, how you want. So if you have a list of, it's not even only telling just sorting parameter, but it sort of tells you what to sort the list by, by which variable or by which attribute that they have. So this is a sorted function here put within a print. So let's just deal with that one first. So the sorted function is a built-in function inside Python. It takes as an input the prod list. And then, as we saw before, normally it just does things by default. So it would naturally just probably sort by the first entry, which is price. I mean, name, in this case, name. Probably sort by name. But now we're now defining a key, which is the product price. And we put prod list as the array of interest or the list of interest. And we tell it that when you are doing your sorting, sort it according to the function prod sort, according to what prod sort tells you to do. So basically, prod sort, this thing is weird because obviously I know you have worked with extensions and everything, so you would know it. But what this is just doing is basically telling sorted function to sort prod list by price. Because what this function just does is just to bring out the price of the product. So it takes in the product as an input and it extracts the price of that product. So that's all this thing is. So when you now put key prod sort, it just goes iteratively, goes through the prod list. So the first object, widget, key, price. So it removes the price of that object and puts it there. And it does so for all the items in the prod list. Then it does its job as a sorter, looks through that list. So that process is almost like a process of generating this array first of all. Then sorted now goes through that thing and then arranges it in the other area. So let's just run this then. And okay, let me comment out some of the things that I have here so that I won't be confused. Let me comment. Okay, so okay. Now let me run it again. So you can see now it has done that in the order. So Thingamabob is the one with the lowest price. And then doohickey, and then widget, and then gadget. You see, so it has done that. And so that's just what this is. But there's a better way. And the better way is to use a lambda function, which is here. And so the lambda is a key is built in into MATLAB. Say MATLAB. Into Python. It's a built-in, okay, this is even information about it. Lambda expressions, sometimes called lambda forms, are used to create anonymous functions. So this is good because you don't have to have predetermined anything. So all this rigmarole, all this defining the function and then doing that, you can just bypass all of that by using that sorted function again. But this time around, put in the key a lambda expression. So it now knows that it's dealing with an expression. You now tell it what to do. So let P be the anonymous expression, right, that you're doing. And then you want to take P as the anonymous. So it just assigns P to all the members of this prod list. So P is anonymous. It's almost like, say, going through prod list. It's almost when you want to do, because I saw something which was weird for me, because I come from a MATLAB background. In MATLAB, you have to say something like, for I, for I equals, say, 1:7. Then you continue your for loop like that. But Python is different, because Python just says for I in, or Python can even say for I, comma, take elements P in prod lists. And then you do something with it. So it's a bit weird for me, because when I first noticed that. But anyway, so that's what it's doing. Python has this ability to just take anything, any undefined variable, and it just assigns it somewhere without any. It's like in MATLAB, you have to predefine that rather than just calling up P and say do something. But Python seems to work, and I quite appreciate it, because it helps with your pseudocode can be more fluent, because you know that, yeah, I can just call this and put this. I like it that way. But yeah, so that's what this lambda function does. So lambda, so key equals an expression lambda, which is assigned, which P is assigned as that lambda.
Yeah.
And it's an anonymous variable. And then what it does is it takes that P and it assigns it as each of the elements of prod list. So it now says, when you take P as each of the elements of prod list, colon, do this, P dot price. So when P is, say, product 1, which is widget, it just says, get the price of that product. And then when P is doohickey, the price of it. When P is thingamabog, the price of it. When P is gadget, the price of it. And it just does all of that. And so that's the way that works. And it's the same thing as this here. So when I run this, you just see it's the same thing. Comes up with the same thing. And it's just faster. In one line, what took 3 lines here, you do in 1 line. And then the last one is just the same lambda key, but this time around, you are using it to actually call a method. So this here has been defined as part of the class, but it's a method within that class. And the method is basically, obviously, it's telling it to perform some operations. So to obtain a discount price from what is here. And so to obtain that discount price, it has told it the mathematical operations to carry out. So what the key, this function here is doing, this sorted function. But before we even go to the sorted function, let's look at what is going on inside here. Is that the product list is called, the key is lambda, just like this, just an anonymous expression. And P is assigned as that anonymous expression, as that lambda. And so P, being lambda, assigned any empty variable, and it just takes as value each of the elements inside prod list. Now we want it to get the discount of that object, P. And so this is this method here. Discount price is the method that's talking about. So when it comes to widget, product one, it looks for the discount price of product one just by simply carrying out this operation. So it does that. And then the sorted function works thereafter by sorting the discount price for each of them. So if I just say print discount prices sorted, and then comma there. So the discount price is sorted.
But why is it still taking? Why can't it just give the discount price? Why is it still taking? The same thing goes for when we sorted the price. Why is it showing two values?
Two values. Okay, no, because what you are telling me to do is not to bring out the prices, but rather to order them and to arrange them. And because the products are defined as this, so they are defined as it's within a list.
But there are three. Why is it showing? Okay, the
There are four.
There are four, and then why is it showing just? We know it's not expected to show discount price.
It's not expected to show the discount.
So one is the discount price.
Yes, that's the discount.
So it's not meant to. If the discount price is meant to be shown, if it was included in the self, yeah, it would have been showing too.
Yeah, exactly. But it couldn't have been included. Okay, it could have been included, but I think maybe for the purpose of this exercise, they deliberately didn't, because they wanted to calculate first, and then so it wasn't part of the actual arguments of the product.
Yeah, I understand.
Yeah, it's just something that just comes up. So yeah, in this case, it's just the name, the price, and the weight. Those are the three things that are coming out here: name, price, and weight. Name, price, and weight. And this has been ordered in the order of their discount prices. So it's actually a silent operation underground. So you don't actually see the actual discount prices.
Yeah.
But it just tells you, it's almost like a decision-making thing. If you had a list of things and you wanted to choose which one is cheaper for me to do, you just pass those lists and the relevant information, and it comes up with a decision-making outcome. Say, okay, the cheapest thing is doohickey. Costs you £40 and it weighs 8 grams or whatever. And so that's that one there. Now, sort table. This is the same class as before, but the difference, the purpose of this particular example or this particular section is that we now want to know what will happen if two things, if you had the same product, but something changed about it. So for example, maybe the discount price changed, the discount changed. Okay, discount can't change. Something like the weight can change, which is the more reasonable thing. And they've done that here. So doohickey is now in two places, but with different weights. So it's almost like you can have the same kind of shoes, but different shoe sizes. So that's this third parameter. In this case, it's weight. And so what happens when you now want to sort on that basis? You might want to sort, for example, you might have maybe a class of people. They have race, name, age. And now you can begin to see that some people might be of the same race, the same okay, so I said age, race, gender, for example.
Yeah.
Okay, one cannot sort gender really, but yeah, you can have race and gender, race and age. Some people can be of name, race, and age. Those are the three examples I have. Some people can be the same name, same race, but not the same age. And so sometimes you might want to order in that sense, where you have people who have the same name, the same age, the same name, the same race, but they are different ages. And that can apply to different kinds of data structures that you might have, or the kind of things that are in your data. And you might have similarities up onto a particular point. And if you're ordering, you want that order to reflect in that sense too. So that's why this example was put there. Because if we ordered by price, these two will be in the same region. But what happens if we order, say, by weight first, or if we want to order by weight first before ordering by price, for instance? They should give us different decision-making things, for instance. So let me just clear this console. And so that's why this is good. So now we're going to just keep on using lambda, because we have seen that even though we can define a I don't want to dismiss this actually, because you might be able to define something much more, because this lambda thing has been defined, built in.
Yeah.
To do it, if you go inside, it definitely has something like this defined with different things. If you take this, make it into an anonymous variable, assign it to this value, and when they put a dot extension, be able to call all the attributes of that parameter. That's what is there for. But you might be able to define maybe a bespoke one for yourself, for your own work that is custom made for what you are doing. So that's going to be essential and good. So now we just stick with the lambda this thing. We stick with the lambda one. And here we have the prod list. And the key is lambda again. P is our free variable. And then P dot price. We want to sort by that. And we wanted to sort it not in ascending order, but we wanted to sort it from highest to lowest. So if I run that now, okay, let me comment out this part because it gives code comment. Okay, so let me run that again. Yes, so now it has done that.
Yeah.
And it has started with the highest price first, 65, and then 50 and all that. So that's what that one does. Now, if we now want to order it first by weight, and
weight now.
Yeah,
Okay.
exactly.
What did you sort by first?
First of all, it was by price, and then we did it in ascending order. I mean, in descending order here, in the reverse order. So now we want to first sort by weight, and then, in fact, for that I did print results so that the thing can be obvious.
Okay.
And then we now print the results, but we sort that result. So basically, that's what that thing is doing. You sort a sorted result. That's what is happening here. So the first has been sorted here. And then we sort that sorted result. So we call that result, which is here. We call it here. So it's already sorted. The weight, it's been sorted by weight already. So we want to take that sorted output and sort that one by price in the reverse. So I just did that. Let me comment this one out. And then, so now this is the original result. Sorted in order, in the increasing order of weight now.
Yeah.
You see, so this is weight 7, weight 8, weight 10, and all that. And then it sorted the weight, the price. It sorted the weighted result by price. And the way I noticed, because I had to stop and look at it and look at what was doing before I could move on. That's how it was going on. So At this point, you notice that Duki and Duiki are next to each other. But but that's not the main thing. The main thing is that, okay, wait. Aha. The main thing is that
it wanted the price to be arranged according to the highest order, and to remain, for that order not to remain. And then if you just want the lowest in weight to come first, so the reverse order
aha.
we apply not to the entire thing, but just to the weight.
So it still preserves the weight.
Yeah.
Okay, this is what I noticed. Aha. So it brought widget 50 here to this point.
Yeah.
So 50 is the price.
Yeah.
So and even though the weight is 10, higher than this one, so it has preserved the whole increasing order of the weight and has brought the prices in reverse and brought the highest one first.
Yeah.
All the way to the lowest. So that's how that sortable or sorting order works. And one can do another sorting and do it this time maybe by the discount price like we've done before and see how that would manifest. Okay, so I think this this is the next one. And this one is now you have to import some operators. So you have to have installed the operator, and then from operator import these three. So these are three things that you use to also call things. And as I look at them, they are also good even with text, not just number. You can call out text and call out
Getter, method caller,
attribute getter, method caller, and item getter. Exactly. And so this thing is still the same. The class is still the same. But this time around, we've changed it from, okay, it's still the same thing. So the same, yeah, the name has just been changed from, Doohickey, gadget, and everything. Everything is now we get A to E.
Yeah.
And what we're doing here, we want to first use the attribute getter. And so, like before, the key we were using was lambda.
Yeah.
And lambda was just a free parameter that can be assigned to each of the members in that this thing. What the attribute getter is it was just like that P in lambda, but now it's able to work on each of the items in what's it called, in prod list. So what the key is attribute getter, and it gets an attribute. And this time around, I want to get the weight attribute for each of these items in prod list, and then sort them in the reverse order. Right? So I'm going to, okay, let me just go through everything. And so sort them in the reverse order. And now the method caller, because, this time when we were here and we're working with that, okay, it was here. Aha. So we use key lambda for the method, discount price method.
Yeah.
And we just use P and all that. So this is just another way to do it. Invoke a method using method caller, and it just works on each of the prod list items.
Yeah.
So method caller, and then you put as an argument of method caller which method you want to call on each of those items. Yeah. So this just why I'm saying it now is just this thing itself. It shouldn't be obscured by the fact that we're using it by a certain or using it within a certain framework.
Yeah.
It doesn't have to be within a certain framework. It's just it can be used on its own to call out things, just like V lookup, EH lookup in what's it called? In Excel. You can just have these items, prod list, call out or bring out this thing in this thing. If it was going to do it alone, I could have put prod list, square brackets, I don't know, number 0, the input number 0, and then call that item and call out its what's it called? The weight of that item number 0. You see. So that one is working like that. Now the last one is an item getter. So these other ones are things that just call out singular things.
You know, all these things are alternatives, though.
They're just alternatives to each other.
Same thing.
Yes,
So,
it's the same thing.
so two person can write the same code
to function the same way, but in different ways.
Different things.
Yes, it's interesting. It's interesting. So this one is an item getter, and it gets. This one can call out tuples or lists within a. Yeah, this is a tuple, isn't it? It's a list of lists. So the thing just sorted. It takes in the inventory.
Yeah.
And then it gets an item 1 or item whatever.
Yeah.
And that's how that one works. And if I just run that, you can see that it gives everything that we expect it to give. It gives each of the items there. Okay, let me see. Okay, it prints an okay, so this one.
Okay.
This item getter here, what it does is that it collects the item in a particular entry. So item getter with argument 1 is going to be getting this item.
Okay.
Number 5, what's the so the price in this particular thing, or the index of this one. The index. So when we say sorted, inventory key item getter, what's it called? Argument 1 is basically telling it to sort by this. But like I said, this thing just seems to be obscuring things. This particular line of code that is highlighted itself is useful in other instances without having to be within a sorted function. You can use it for a particular purpose itself. So that's that's what I wanted to say. And maybe within another function that doesn't have to be sorted, it could be something else that you're doing that you don't want. It doesn't have to be that you're sorting something. And I think now that so the next part.
It's used for the item getter.
Yeah.
It is well, it's a dictionary actually. So it sees the quantity as number 1. You know. So that's why the quantity comes before it sorts the alphabet, not the letters, not the words, or it sorted all of them.
No, it only sorted because one. So let me change this to 0.
Okay.
And I expect it to. You see, it has sorted it by the widget A, widget B, C, D, E.
So that's why I said I sorted the quantity.
Yes. So that other time, I told you to go for item 1. So if I do that, now it has sorted it by
2, 4, 4, 5.
2, 4, 4, 5, 7. So that's what that one will have done. I think we have 2 more parts of this chapter to go now. I can see time is running away. Okay.
Move faster.
Yeah. So it's almost done now. And this one I learned that in this place you can you can define, so this is basically making your array. It's almost like when you want to validate, like a validation process, for instance. You can define the kind of things that enter into that array just by this thing here. So in this case, if you put an I in quotes, it's what's the word I'm looking for? It basically makes this array an integer array, that everything that enters. So whatever you want to do with that array, all these dot extensions, insert, append. If you want to insert something, you cannot insert a non-integer. And you can't append a non-integer. You can't extend it by putting non-integers. It has to be an integer. Eh?
Okay, it's just an array of integers anyway.
No, the reason is because of this thing. So this first entry puts the validation instruction that everything that this array contains and should contain is only integers. In this case,
we need to obey that.
In this case, this is another category now. It's bytes.
Okay. Yeah,
and I heard that bytes are only from 0 to 255 or something like that.
Yeah,
so you can't.
Reminding me when we set up database. We set up database and validate ahead of what people can put and what they cannot put.
What they cannot put, exactly. So that's the same thing that even with what's it called? All this Yahoo Mail, even the normal form. If you don't put at there, I think that's one of the things that they use
validations too.
Yes.
But you know, the validation you do at the form, right?
Yeah.
Since the entire data is going to go into the database, you validate also the database because the form can scatter, there is no problem, but database must not scatter.
Must not scatter.
And that's where, you know, when it comes to the mathematical and all this engineering thing, there's so much of precaution in programming than even with words. Because you know that can collapse a bridge.
Yeah.
Or that can an entire building to catch fire.
It's true. Definitely. Very important there. And so the only thing I want to think about, obviously, I don't know. So if one wanted to create a validation section for his own, apart from using a function, if one wanted to define something like this, that when you put your array, say you only want even numbers there. If anybody were to put an odd number, it won't take it. Or you only want prime numbers. You know, how do you define something like this?
Maybe the thing is they have data types when it comes to the database. So it's either you are talking about bits, integers, and strings. I think we need to go to database.
Yeah.
We need
to look at to know,
because you know the next thing in that previous course we left is database.
Okay.
But what we can do is we can take a Python course in itself that is database.
On database, and just
that will broaden our knowledge.
That will broaden our understanding of this. Because it just doing these things causes you to ask more questions.
Exactly.
And
they are just using those examples and they expect people to just follow it. But you know, if you just follow example and you finish your course and so
you are not applying the knowledge.
You're not applying. So that's one of
the things that
you know.
You don't know. So so that's what this thing does really anyway. And then these are the normal, we've seen this before, the insert, append, and extend functions. Exactly. And so they just do as normal.
Into it, you know, but the thing is, this array stuff, you know, you begin to ask the question, is this a list? Is this a tuple? Is it you know, that it can be appended to? Because the way it's like a tuple, It's not
Yeah.
just a list because, or maybe it's a list anyway.
It's
This thing
it,
is just this bracket that comes in, but so it doesn't make it a tuple. So that means it can be appended.
this I think is this the array itself obviously is a function,
so it's the
and
one
this
that accepts brackets. Is not
eh?
is not the is the one that accepts the contents, the items are inside a list. So that means it can be appended.
Yes. So
Yeah, the
this
tuple cannot
actually
be
is the
appended that
array.
way.
Eh?
The tuple cannot, you can't append to a tuple,
You
right?
can't append it to yeah, yeah. So this actually is the array. This is just a function. The array, this is a function. The first entry is just the validation point. Here is your list itself.
And then the array one type code is to select type code from it.
Yes.
So which type code are they talking about now?
So the type code basically is that I that I put there. Just
Okay.
basically tells you it's the integer.
Okay. Yeah.
For the B, it
Yeah.
tells for this
It's
for
just
array
to
2.
understand the type code. Maybe there are other things one can also select within the array two
If
apart
I
from the code.
put type code, okay, help. No Python documentation one. All right. Okay, that one is another day's matter. Abi, is it
Make
just
una leave am before we start doing PhD research on resetting the thing. Let's progress.
let's move on?
It may not be suitable to the example the guy is using.
Yeah,
Things will be clearer. Like Jesus, we always say you will understand it better
better, but
when
it's
you get.
okay.
They want to
So,
understand everything Jesus was saying. They didn't know, so they have to reach everyone or receive Holy Spirit.
eh, so this yeah. So I won't belabor this point
Mm.
of adding this one. Um, just tells us how we can move over or use the array as an iterative what's it called process and
Multiply everything by two,
multiply everything by 2
one by one.
one by one.
Form a looping argument.
The only thing I didn't understand is what, because I tried to find out what the enumerate function does. But I just did enumerate. Okay, no, I told it to print enumerate one. So I think maybe I was looking for the wrong thing.
Yeah.
Because I didn't quite understand what it was doing. I didn't quite understand what this. I knew what the whole function did. It populated array one with um, with this times 2. So I don't know if you have understanding of what's going on here. What, because I printed enumerate R1 because I wanted to know what this is actually doing. And so this is enumerate. So this is basically the contents of enumerate R1. So I'm wondering how for elem in enumerate R1 is doing elem times 2. So I really don't understand what's going on there.
We put it inside our diary. for further research.
But anyway, me and my questions. So
They are good, but we will meet them. I know that we'll meet them because
in the
something
future,
becomes clearer when we meet them.
when you learn better,
Because the thing is, if we start treating functions in data science, that's Python function strictly for data science,
yeah.
we'll meet array one by one, minute, maximum, all those things. So
So, okay, the last part before we go to the final section is just this. You can now transform that array. So, like for example, R2 has been typesetted to be just bytes. So you can transform that to a list. And so when I print that, you just have this. Yeah, so it now turns into a list of just numbers. And so it can now, so once you do that, you can now append and extend and do all of those things with things.
I think we were able to do it as an array.
No, you can append as an array, for example, but you cannot append with things that can be validated as a byte in array 2, for example. But once you turn it to a list, you can now be doing all the normal things. You can now append with 400.
Do that with array 1.
With array 1, but if I transform array 1 to a list, I would then be able to add 2.5, 3.5. But at this point, it only takes in integers.
You can see we were adding to it here. We're inserting, we're appending, we're extending.
Yes, but only extending with integers.
Okay.
And appending with integers. But if I turn it, if I insert, for example, if I do this, you see an error, this thing now, you see, because it's not an integer. So it couldn't add 0.2 to, or insert it in the second position. Couldn't do that. But if I turn it to a list, this function will automatically work. Because it will take in that floating number. That's that about that. And then finally, the bisect function, you have to import it. And what this just does is to be able to find where you place a new number. So if you have an ordered list, an array that the numbers inside are ordered, it's almost like maybe if you have a new person joining a group and you want to find, maybe the group is already ordered in hierarchy in terms of the name, maybe alphabetical order, or by their age. You've already ordered them. So you are saying, where does this person fit into this list? And it's a huge list. So what the bisect function does is it basically tells you at which location that new entry can go. Tells you at which location that new entry can go. And so these preliminary things were just done to show the importance of bisect left and bisect right. What bisect left does is that it takes the array, and then it looks for this particular number as the reference point. And then it looks to the left of that number or to the right of that number, depending on which bisect something you choose. And it tells you how many spaces after that you can put it, or which particular character number your new entry should go, depending on where you want to put it, so left or right. And to note, by default, bisect looks to the right. So if I evaluate this only, one cannot evaluate selected only. Anyway, so you see, okay, because I put the wrong number, if I put 20, because 23 is not there, so both of them will, all of them will put. So you can see 20 for bisect alone is saying 4, character number 4. So it's telling you to put it to the right of It looks to the right of 20. That's where this 20 number is. Let me change this number to 21. And all of them now are on 4-4. So what it does is to give you which location to put your new entry such that it will maintain the sorting that you've already done.
So it did not put the entry there.
No, this one won't put it there. It will just tell you where. This will insert it. Huh?
Reading from the back is supposed to be different from when it's reading from the front.
So right and left aren't reading from front or back. They are just looking at to the right or to the left of, where.
Data.
Yeah. So this is the function that inserts. So you do bisect dot insert to the right, of that value, or the value where it should be. But when you look at values, this array, insert 23 there, to the right of whatever the yield should have been. So this one, if I change it to 23 now, and we'll just see. And then I'm going to do
No, it's my system. The second system is having fan problem. So it will be
I can hear bam, 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 bam.
The fan of the system is just behind. The second system that is doing has fan problem. So it vibrates, boom, boom, boom. The fan. Wow. So sometimes, to bat it blow no more pallet.
Wow.
That's why, you're hearing bam, bam, bam. It's the fan.
Okay, so let me just run this function now. Yeah, the problem obviously now is, okay, what I wanted to achieve. Let me just change that to 26 then. That one. Aha. So it has inserted 23 to the left of 25, and then 26 in the new list to the right of 26. Of 25. Both of them work. Basically, either of them will do the sorting properly. We did the sorting properly. The only sort of maybe difference is if you have the same number. So we need to insert it to the right or to the left of whatever the number is already existing. And then finally, we move to this one, which is an application for this that we have just looked at, this bisect. And what the application is that you can have a system where you have values to which you are assigning something. This can be linked back to the idea of dictionaries and assignments to dictionaries, the things that are within the dictionary, how you have defined each item. But in this particular case, you have grade letters, F to A or A to F. And the way it works is that we use this function. It takes in the breakpoints, which are these things here, 60, 70, 80, and 90. And the idea is that 90, anything to the right of 90 is an A. Anything to the right of 80, but not to the right of 90 is a B. Anything to the right of 70, but not to the right of 80 is a C. Anything to the right of 60, but not to the right of 70 is a D. And anything that is below 60 is an F. So that's how this assignment is. And so you call the bisect function to basically give you the different grades that are assigned to each of this, to this, what's it called? To any of these numbers when you want to, you are muted though.
We have 4 breakpoints and we have 5 great letters.
That's the,
which means that from 100 to 90 is A.
yes.
And from 90 to 80 is B.
Exactly.
But why did we omit 100?
Because 100 is because you are assuming that the top is 100. It could be 120, but I think for the purposes of the work itself, having 100.
See all these things you are saying. You started by saying now you say it's assume I'm assuming it's 100, but it could be 150. How can 150 be
Eh?
above of 100%? 100 is where percent ends now.
But they did not say it's percentage now. They
Oh,
just said breakpoint. But yeah, the like you were saying, the upper point doesn't really matter anymore because it looks at it as, it's almost, that's the reason for the introduction of this. So you put a number, say 23, and it automatically finds where it should be. If I were to put 76, it will put it in front of this. If I put 100, it will put it in front of 75. If I put 150, it will put it in front of 75. In the same way too, if you had a number as a score from a student that is say 150, in fact, I'm going to put that here just for illustration. It will just automatically scan through the breakpoints by doing a bisection insertion, basically, and say, where would I insert 150? And it will say, okay, I would have to insert 150 after 90. And then by this function, or this process that, this function that's been calculating grade that's been defined here, it will automatically note that 150 is going to be inserted after 90. Therefore, the appropriate grade for 150 is A, regardless of whatever the number is. And if I put minus 50, it will probably just know that, minus 50 is lower than 60, and it's going to be an F. And the one marker is score. Yeah, owing yeah, owing your teacher's score.
put the person there now. Put okay, there's F.
Make I put 150.
53 is F now.
There's somebody with 53 there with F.
You can put 0 too.
Let me put 0 there. Is it? Yeah, let me put 0.
The most interesting thing is you can do as much as possible list.
Yes.
And the guy will just return grade for you. So
we just bring
you have already set it. So it's not like you set everything to just be, you have to set which one will be here and be looking for which one will be. Exec cannot do this one.
Well, I don't know, but yeah, probably not. Because you would go. I know Excel you can do coding in Excel too. So
yeah, except if you use VBA. That's what I know
Maybe
exactly.
those things.
And you have to use Visual Basic, VBA language, which is a very
Yeah.
old language.
What's the yeah? So so this function calculates the grade. It takes in score as the input, and then it just uses this same bisect function that we've been looking at to look for the location. That's why this 4 is there and this whatever. The location that you would insert this number, this new number. So it scans through the breakpoints and um, it takes in score, the score of the person, and it scans through it. And I is that number. So these grade letters have been given what's it called? Um, characters. So this is 0, 1, 2, 3, 4. So if your I is 0, it just returns F. So if your number should be inserted behind 60, it returns F. If your number should be, say, because so you just imagine there's a 0, there's a 1, there's a 2, there's a 3, there's a 4, there's a 5, and then if wherever your score should be inserted, that's what this thing would come out with.
Run it now. Let's
Yes.
see where
So
your minus 20 will be. It give you error. Or it gives you fail.
so this is 20. It's okay. I think it's running. Okay, these are. Well, I can't see all the numbers. But what are we actually telling it to print?
See them below. BDFFFAA. Are they not the one?
Yeah, they're the one.
And I think it has arranged them.
Because I can't find 0 and minus 20. That's why.
They are under fail now. See 3 fail.
But this is 20.
3, 0, and minus 20. They are FFF. Is it not great that it's giving you? Oh, you are looking at the first one.
Okay, sorry. I should have told it to print. Yeah, this is the last line of good anyway. So I just said it to print. Retire. It's okay. Okay. Okay, but okay, yes. So 53 0 minus 20 FFF, and then 91A, 82A, and you see 150. You gave it there. It's because it's obviously not validated, as we said. So, like I was saying, if one could define something at the start to make the score actually an array, and then you put your validation thing in quotes, like we have I in this one.
What do you need the array for? Well, the array and the validation is needed, but if you want to start analysis, you can take the ready strings and convert it to an array. And the array is to receive input, because for me, all these validations goes more into receiving input before people start putting rubbish
inside.
So like if you put table inside that thing now,
everything you go do.
Which grade will table give? That's one of the things why it just give you an error. But in the case of the input, it's always good for them to. It's always good to validate it.
Yeah, not supportable in terms of strings and int. Okay. In fact, the problem was here. It couldn't deal with the score.
Yeah.
Okay. All right, so that concludes the
What session?
Hmm?